guys, thanks for tuning on in. Before we get started, I just want to take a little minute and talk about our free Facebook group called Credit Score Hackers, where you can get answers to your credit questions from experts in the field, as well as people in a similar situation. So thank you guys so much once again for tuning on in, and I hope to see you on the inside. Hello and welcome back to the Credit Agent Show. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the best credit cards for the year of 2022. So stay tuned for all the tips and tricks. So credit cards, I mean, let's face it, you probably either really love them or you hate them. And honestly, there's going to be one commonality out of them all, which is the confusion that comes from researching them. I mean, there's so many choices in this day and age, and let's face it, it's a pretty big decision to make because you're going to have this card for a significant amount of years, and it's going to be contributing to your credit history. So you want to make sure you choose the best credit card for you. And that's kind of what we want to do today, is present you some of the mainstay categories of, credit cards people generally try to look for, and kind of take a look at the lists from all the major lenders and compile them into the best credit cards for you. So some of the categories we're going to be looking at are going to be things like interest rates, bonuses, intro bonuses, and annual and hidden fees as well. Because let's face it, those APR rates especially can go pretty high if you get sucked into, a low APR rate intro credit card. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first category we're going to be diving on into is some of the best credit cards with low interest rates. So the first card we are going to be discussing is the Wells Fargo Active Cash Card. So anyways, this Wells Fargo Active Cash Card has a no annual fee, which is huge, especially for those of you who are looking to get a credit card and not have to pay yearly for it. A recommended score of around 690 to 850, so you do need a pretty decent credit score to qualify for this card, but the bonuses are pretty good. Before we get there though, let's talk about that APR rate. So it will have a intro APR period of around 15 months where you are paying absolutely 0% APR. Now, this is going to be great because during this period, this includes things like purchases as well as balance transfers in addition. So afterwards, the APR rate's going to kind of go up to 15 to 25% depending on your credit score, which is why we recommend before you sign the dotted line, go into the bank, talk to somebody about it, and actually get their opinion, and you can figure out with your credit score, if you already qualify for the card, kind of the ballpark estimate of where that APR rate is going to be at. Because let's face it, if you have a 690 and you get this credit card and your APR rates go up to 25%, you're going to be losing a lot of money using this card. That is why just because you can get a card doesn't necessarily mean you should. You need to make sure the card works for you, which is super, super important. So continuing off on some of the rewards that this card can have, if you spend up to $1,000 within the first 3 months, you will receive $200 in cash in your pocket. Now, this is a great type of reward if you can afford it. Remember how I said, just because you can qualify for a credit card doesn't necessarily mean you should get it. Well, this still applies to rewards. Just because the reward with the card seems enticing, you want to make sure you can feasibly afford it before you chase after that reward, because this could be a very easy way to snowball into credit card debt if you're not careful and you don't have the funds to pay off that amount of money within that short amount of time. So some of the reward rates for this card is you get 2% cash back on everyday purchases, and your rewards don't expire as long as the account remains open. Now, this is perfect because, like I kind of mentioned previously, you want to keep these cards open for as long as possible. Anyways, that length of credit history is 15% of your total overall FICO score. So it's very, very important anyways that you keep this card open, and you might as well rank up some of these bonuses in addition to that. So another great alternative for a low interest rate credit card is going to be that Bank of America AMERICARD credit card. Now, this has no annual fee like the previous one, a recommended score of 690 to 850, so you kind of need that good credit score. It also, for the intro APR period, has a 0% APR rate for the first 18 months. So the first year and a half, you are paying absolutely no APR interest on any of your purchases or your bills, which is fantastic. So after this first 18-month intro period with this credit card, your APR rate will range between 13% and 23%. So overall, the APR rates are going to be lower than the previously mentioned card, but you still want to follow that guideline of making sure your APR rates are going to be where you can afford them, before you sign anything. So there's no penalty APR as well, and so paying late won't automatically raise your interest rate, which can be a great benefit if you're late on your payments. Sometimes it isn't great to rely on it, but it's good to know it's there for you in case you need it. So some of the intro rewards for this card is if you spend $1,000 within the first 90 days of owning the card, you will get $100 cash in your pocket. So not quite the same as the last one. It's a little bit less of a reward, but it's going to be a little bit more feasible to obtain, especially for those of you who may not have the increased income for your full credit limit whenever you get that card. Now, this is a disclosure for the card. It's an online offer only, so you're not going to be able to go into the bank itself and talk to somebody about the card. You're going to have to kind of apply online, but you can still reach out to their customer support and try to get more info on the card, or maybe work with them to kind of get a predictive APR rate for the card before, once again, you have to sign anything. So another great low interest rate card that you can consider is going to be the Discover It Cashback Credit Card. Now, this one has an annual fee as well of $0 and a recommended score, once again, of 690 to 850. The intro APR period is going to be 0% for the first 14 months on purchases and balance transfers. And during this intro period, the balance transfer fee is reduced to 3%, but afterwards, there will be a 5% fee. That's very, very important to consider because you don't want to get slammed with those transfer fees without realizing they are going up after that intro period. So moving on, they have a cashback match feature, which can be a very good benefit for, those of you seeking that type of ability. And what that is Discover will match your cash back after you've earned at the end of the first year. And the best part of all, there's no minimum or maximum to how much you can earn. This can be great if you're, the type of person that really wants that cash back money, and you can maximize your profit this way with a card like this. So, and an example of this is if you had $200 cash back your first year, Discover will match it, and now you have $400 at the end of the year because they match that $200. So moving on to some of the rewards rates for this credit card, it has a 5% cash back on Amazon, grocery stores, restaurants, gas stations, and when you use PayPal, all other purchases that you do and services will earn you 1% cash back. Now, this is a great feature to have, but there is, to note, some risk with this. They're trying to entice you to really use this credit card with every single purchase you do. Now, if you've watched our previous videos in the past, you'll definitely know we preach a lot to manage your credit utilization rate. It is so important you don't go above that 30% threshold of your total available credit, because then you'll be labeled as high risk. Now, with this cashback match feature, it can be very easy to snowball your credit limit and go all the way up to that threshold. So you want to make sure you manage your credit limit and pay down all of your expenses by the end of the month so that you do not, once again, get labeled as high risk. So moving on, they have one last thing, which is going to be a bonus. Discover is accepted nationwide. 99% of all businesses will use Discover. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, especially when traveling, will notice, one business will only accept MasterCard or one business will only accept Visa. With something like Discover, you're not going to have to worry about that in the United States because 99%, once again, of all businesses will accept Discover.